I end up had to leave Jacksonville because of my addiction and taking monies from the drug dealers and stuff like that. So I had to leave Jacksonville, Florida, and I went back to Cleveland, Ohio. And during the midst of my travel, I got back to Cleveland, and my mother was waiting at the door, because when I came back to Cleveland, I didn't tell her I was coming. I just showed up, and she opened the door and she said, "I've been praying for you." And I walked in the door, and she just fell on my neck and hugged me, and she said, "I was praying for you." And I was home. She was so glad. But I tell the guys that Satan don't have new tricks. He have new faces. And what I mean about new faces, as soon as I got back to Cleveland, Ohio, I fell right back in the same old addiction within 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, I was back to doing what I was doing in Jacksonville, Florida. So at that time, my mother didn't really know that I had how serious my addiction was. But money always came up missing out of her purse, and she was not aware. She could never figure it out. So the more I came around, the more she started being cautious of laying her purse around. So she actually would walk around the house with her purse in her arm like she was crouching with a football. And then, you know, after I noticed that she knows something was going on, and one night I came to her, I said, "Mom, I need some money." She said, "I don't have no money." I said, "Mom, I need some money." And she said, "I don't have any money." So I made my mother give me some money that night. I took it. I actually took money from my mother. And as I was driving down the street that night, and it was 1997, I remember it just clear. As I was driving down the street, tears was rolling down my eyes, and said, "Lord, you gotta help me, because I just took some money from my mother. I love my mother. I've never did anything of that magnitude to my mother." I said, "You gotta help me." So as I was driving down the highway, I saw an abandoned building, and on the side of the building there was a kid, a 13-year-old child, standing on the corner there. So I stopped my car and I parked under the street light. And this is how God gave it to me. And as I looked back over, I said, wow. I parked under a street light, and as I parked under the street light, I had to step out of the light into the dark place where this kid was, and this kid was standing in the corner by a big bush, and it was real dark there. And I had to step into the dark to get this drug because of the addicted of the crack cocaine. And as he held out his hand, and as I was going through his hand, I only had $10. He said, "Dude, you only got $10. And I'm looking at this kid, which he should have been my son. But here he is, he's telling me as I went through what I needed to get. And I purchased that, and I went back to another abandoned building. And when I went back to that abandoned building, as I started to smoke the crack and go through the hallucination point, because at that point when you start smoking, you start hallucinating. I was hearing voices. Is somebody calling me? Is that the police at the window? You know, I'm looking out the window. Is that the police down there? Is the police coming up the stairs? Or, you know, what's going on? You know, so I was really paranoid. You know, I was paranoid. And at the end of that moment, because I didn't have no more drugs at the point, I was looking on the floor. And if you ever had any addiction, you know, when you're out of your drugs, or, you know, you get down on the floor, and I was down on the floor looking, I was crawling around looking and picking up little white pellets, thought it was crack cocaine, and there was none there. But as I was crawling down on my knees, I heard a still, quiet voice, and that voice was saying, "Sparky." And I'm looking around, I'm thinking I'm hallucinating again. It said, "Sparky." And I'm looking around, I said, "Huh?" He said, "Get up off your knees." I said, "What?" He said, "Get up off of your knees. You're done." And I said, what? So I stood up, and as I stood up, I felt a covering come over me. Because see, I knew the Word of God, I knew God, but I didn't have a relationship with Him, because I would go to church on Sunday and leave the church and go straight to the crack house. Or I go straight to the bar. And see, that's what, and I tell guys, I say, we are the king of our castle. And if the enemy can get you out of your castle, your queen and your prince or your princess, your son or your daughter is left vulnerable to the enemy. And when he had got me out of my place, my household, my family was left vulnerable. And I didn't realize what was going on, but God had to deliver me. And in that delivering me, He had to come in at one time. Because see, I couldn't, because of my addicted personality and my addicted nature, He had to deliver me that night. Because when I stood up, He said I was done. And then I went laid down on a corner, on an old abandoned, on a mat that was there. Somebody else had been sleeping on it. And I woke up that morning. I didn't have a taste for a cigarette. I didn't have a taste for alcohol, because those was my triggers. I would start smoking, and then after I started smoking, I wanted to drink, and then after I started drinking, I wanted to get higher, so I go buy crack, and then after that, I would add a woman, because the women's was part of the addiction. So, He had to take it all away from me at that one time. And it doesn't happen like that with everybody. And I tell guys like that, it might not happen like that for you, but you got to trust God and have the relationship with Him. So at that moment, that morning I woke up, I didn't have the taste to smoke a cigarette. I didn't have a taste to drink alcohol. I didn't have the taste for the addiction. But as I was growing, a month had went by in 1997, October, a month had went by. My mother knew I wasn't going out, staying 2 and 3 days and not coming back late. So she said, what's wrong? I said, well, I just don't want to do those things no more. So I started going to church. And every time the church doors opened, I was there for church service. I was there for singles ministry. I was there for Bible study. I was there for everything that the church had to offer, because I was hungry for the Word of God. I was hungry for what God wanted to do in my life, because I had to change. And in the middle of that change, God had showed me that little boy, and that's what my heart came out for, that truly went out for men that had left their family and young kids. So I became part of the ministry at church, Cleveland, Ohio. It was Open Door Ministry. And I started going to school. I was going to Moody Bible School at the time. And I was just thirsty. I was just trying to do everything I could. So I joined the evangelist ministry, outreach, and I did, it was like crack house down the street. God used me, I'll say God did a tremendous work in me, because when I went to that crack house that one day, the dealer came and let me come in and pray with everybody.
The crack dealer?
Yeah, it's like he allowed me to come in, because I had walked around this community so many times for like 6 months, and I got to know everybody in the community. So the dealer let me come in and pray with the people that was in there. And I would do that once a week. And then after that, a month went by, I prayed with the dealer. And after he accepted Christ that night, the next day, the police stormed the building, and he wasn't there, and they closed the building up. So the dealer he came to the church, and he said, Brother Sparky, he called me minister at the time. He said, I thank you for allowing God to use you to save my life.
Your name, please.
My name is Paul Stadden. Last name, I always have to spell it, Stadden.
Okay. And you are in public relations here at Waterfront Mission, is that correct?
I'm the Public Relations Associate.
Okay. All right. And can you tell us a little bit about what happens when a person walks into your program for the very first time? What is the process?
Well, the first thing that they need to do is they need to meet with our intake chaplain. Our intake chaplain is going to talk to them about, are you a right fit for this program? Are you the kind of person who will respond well to this program? Because there are people who will respond well to different kinds of stimuli and programs where they can get weaned off of drugs. We have a very specific kind of program that helps people in really getting this out of their system, going away, and completely redeveloping their lives. You know, what you're doing is you're reprogramming people. You have people who have made a lot of bad decisions, and they keep making them, and that's the problem. So what you want is you want to get them out of that environment. We have a 90-day recovery program, so if someone meets with our intake chaplain and they seem like they're a fit for the program, then they're going to go in and they're going to start in on getting away from those substances. They'll stay here on campus, and we have things like curfew, you have work that you do, you have a specific bed that you sleep in that you have to keep in a certain order. It's kind of like being in the military a little
Sure.
bit. Except that instead of training people to go off to be soldiers, you're training people to basically re-enter society. So it's a tough thing. It's not an easy thing, especially for somebody whose natural reaction to authority is, I'm not going to do what you tell me, or somebody whose instinct is to run or lie or do any that kind of thing. But you have a lot of people who come in, they've come to the end of themselves, and that's why they're here.
Which sounds like are the two gentlemen we just spoke with.
Exactly. You got a really good idea of what this program is like talking to Robert and John. Because you have people who do come in here who are court ordered, and yes, you're going to get that. You have people who come in here and think they're going to try to game the system. You have people who think they're going to pull one over on the chaplains. The thing is that you can't really do that for very long, because the program is designed to kind of weed that out. You're looking to get to the heart of why you are where you are. And if you don't want to be here and you don't want to do the program and you don't want to do those difficult things, you're not going to last long, because you're going to want to go. But here's the thing. These chaplains are so full of love for you guys. They don't want anyone to go back out and sleep on the streets. They don't want someone to go back to self-destructive behavior. They're going to do everything they can to help you, change, because some of them were exactly where these guys are. Chaplain Michael Lawless, he was homeless, came through the program, became one of our chaplains. Chaplain Sparky, whom you will be talking to, Chaplain Sparky, he lived addicted to drugs, horribly addicted to drugs after he got out of the military. And one day he had that life-changing moment, I'll say, where God got a hold of him and said, this is not going to be part of your life anymore. And he wants to bring that into the lives of these guys.
Absolutely.
Not an easy thing, but it's worth it.
No. And I'm sure he has a lot to offer, being that he's been in their shoes. To me, there's nothing better than learning from somebody who's already been down that road. Maybe slightly different circumstances, but they've been in your shoes. They can look at you and say, I've been there, I understand. And I think that's comforting to the people coming in.
Yeah.
You know, definitely.
Because you don't want to talk to somebody who only has the head knowledge, especially when you're in that situation. Because the first thing that you say to somebody is, you don't understand. You don't know what it's like to be high on cocaine. You don't know what it's like to be addicted to heroin. You don't know what it's like to live on the streets. They do. They do know what it's like. They can talk to these guys at their level.
So once they've gone through your 90-day recovery program, what is the next step? Is that when they start working after that, or?
Well, after you've done the 90-day recovery program, you have the option, again, this is voluntary, you have the option of going into the career development program, which from there you're going to learn life skills. Maybe if you need a GED, you can get your GED. If you need to get resume training, job readiness, interviewing skills, public speaking, all those things that kind of we take for granted. You know, we go through our school, we do the things they tell us to do. This is how you fill out a resume, this is how you fill out a job application, this is how you do these kind of basic things, and you just kind of take it for granted. Right. Not everybody got that. So it could be anything from somebody who comes in, they were already professional, they don't need a GED. Maybe they even have a master's degree or a doctorate.